Good afternoon. I have to apologize. I have a cold. I've been battling it for about a week now, and by the sound of my voice, I'm losing. I work for the Hopi Cultural Preservation Office, and I was asked by the people doing the symposium to kind of show what the Hopi tribe and other tribal programs use historic photographs for. And there's a lot of projects out there, and because of the time, I decided just to narrow some of the projects down. I'd like to first tell you about what our office does, the Hopi Cultural Preservation Office. The Hopi Cultural Preservation Office represents the Hopi people's interests both within and outside the Hopi Reservation. This responsibility requires the involvement and input of Hopi villages, clans, religious societies, as well as the Hopi tribal government. HCPO is the central tribal clearinghouse for culturally related issues coming to the attention of the Hopi tribe. What that means is, if you were, we mainly deal with government agencies, and if they're wanting to do different projects throughout the Four Corners region that involve cultural issues, they have to first consult the Hopi tribe on a government-to-government basis. And what we do is try to work with them to make their projects go along. If you try to send your stuff to the Hopi Tribal Council or the Hopi Tribal Chairman's office, they'll bump all that stuff back to our office. So to save paper and whatnot, it's just best to send it to our office. Some of the things I'll be discussing are the HCPO archives, HCPO education efforts, tribal research, village restoration projects, and that's through the Hopi Foundation, oral history, lawsuits, legal cases, news stories, public relations, and student enrichment projects. The archive serves as a repository for HCPO records, other tribal records, and primary and secondary source material on the history and culture of the Hopi people. Materials are made available to support research necessary to carry out the mandates of the Hopi tribe and for educational purposes that promote the preservation of Hopi culture and language. The second one, I put this in there in 2003. The archives received in excess of 900 photos and photo negatives of Hopi village activities from the 1940s to 1960s. And the reason why I put this in there is because this collection hasn't been processed yet, and it was donated by a gentleman from Albuquerque, New Mexico, by the name of Walt Lamar. And the collection is of works done by Milton Snow. I don't know too much about Milton Snow, and I'm currently researching. But what I did find was that he was a worker for the Indian Agency in Window Rock and 40 Fights, and he did most of his work on the Navajo people. So I'm going to give you some ideas of what we use historical photographs for. This is just a picture of tribal staff members looking through the collection. Like I said, there's 900 photos and photo negatives, and they were pasted to this really acidic paper, and my first priority was to save the negatives. They both came with photos and negatives, so I talked with well-known archivists, and that was one of the things that they suggested to do, was try to save a negative. We also do educational efforts. Our office goes out to the youth and elderly programs to present a variety of projects that we're working on, as well as the local schools. Last year we participated in the Earth Day activities, and this year as well. We just recently passed the tribal holiday. It's the Pueblo Revolt Day on August 10th, and we have a tribal holiday, and we have a big celebration then too. And we use a lot of these photographs in demonstrating Hopi culture. And the example that I have here is the Hotevilla Village Project, and they're commemorating their birthday of 100 years in 2006 from the split of Oldoraibi. So it's going to be 100 years. So they asked our office and I believe Victor Masayaspa to gather as much photographs on the village of Hotevilla. And this slide shows some of the stuff we were able to find. The first picture up there with the gentleman is a photograph of two village members, and this, I pressed the wrong button. This person right here is Franklin Suhu, and the person right here is Samuel Tanakongwa. And this is a photograph of the cross-country team, and from what the stories I've heard, this team was really hard to beat. The second photograph here is an aerial photograph of Hotevilla, and I wanted to point out all the orchards that you see here. Our village is known for the many orchards, peach orchards, and some of them are not there, but some of them are still producing.
Do you know where the first photograph was taken?
It was given to us by the son of Samuel Tanakongwa, so I don't really know what. It's probably around the 1920s or 30s.
No, I mean where?
Sherman Indian High School? I'm sorry.
And where's that?
In Riverside, California,
okay.
boarding
Okay.
school.
Thank you.
Here you can see the peaches that are being dried out. That's the technique that they use. They slice the peaches in half and let the peaches out to sun dry. And here we have string beans being strung up and tied to dry. And you can see through here the different fields that produce corn and beans and whatnot. And below here we have terrace gardens that the women tend to, and they produce squash, beans, and chili as evidence through these here. These are strings of chili. Another example is tribal research, and I picked historic aerial photography, and what they went and studied was a long time ago when men were initiated into the men's society. They would travel about 60 or 70 miles to the Grand Canyon to gather salt as part of their initiation. They currently don't do this anymore, but a lot of people were interested in the history behind it. So we did a research on this project. What we did was we used historical aerial photography. I don't know if you can see the little red line, but that was the actual trail using photography in the 1950s. What we found out was that later these trails were heavily used, and later they were used for wagons, and some of these trails turned into major dirt roads to metal home sites in the Tuba City area. This photograph shows the Cultural Resources Advisory Task Team doing the ground truth of actually where the trail ran through. And the bottom one here, they used GPS technology to record the trail, and the outcome of the project was that. This is the western part of the Hopi Reservation. Here is the Navajo Reservation, and this is also part of the Hopi Reservation. It's the Hopi area, and here is the Little Colorado Gorge, and we were able to track the trail all the way down to the Little Colorado River. Another example is village restoration projects, and this is mainly done by the Hopi Foundation. It's a privately organization that deals a lot of issues with the tribe as well. And some of the projects that they worked on were the Piki House Restoration Project at Bakawi Village, the Plaza Restoration Project at Bakawi Village as well, the Walpi Restoration Project, and the Snow Clan House Restoration Project at Walpi Village. The object of these restoration projects is to rebuild homes as close as possible to the original. And they use these photographs to kind of get a sense of what the Hopi interiors look like. This bench right here, a lot of people who are Hopi people who are building new homes will often add this benchmark in here, just as a sign to show that it's a traditional house. And this photograph is, looks like a storage and work area, where storage area would be in here. The Walpi Restoration Project, this just shows how the newly restored homes, and the process of which the roofing, the traditional way of roofing the top portions. Here we have juniper beams that go across, and then they're woven into the beams with willow sticks, and then covered with white clay, and it looks like this in the inside. Here's an example of the Snow Clan house. This photo was done by Milton Snow, and it's part of the collection. You can see the Snow Clan house in 1944, and then the same house being restored in 96, and the house when it was done. But the Hopi Foundation made sure that I mentioned that from these restoration projects, they were able to come up with technical guides on how to go about restoring homes. So later, if you want a photocopy of the guides, you can call me and I can provide you with the copies. The Hopi Foundation office also has copies of the technical guides. And this one is my project, the Oral History Project. When I first started doing the Oral History Project in '99, I ran into some problems with not only getting people to talk on recorders. The people were much older and couldn't remember much about the different subjects. So I did some research, and I was able to take photographs with me to stimulate the mind. That way, you know, they can see and remember what the subject is about. And what I found out was that they start being comfortable and they start talking, and pretty soon your list of questions that you're going to be talking about or asking slowly, shortens, because by them talking without you interrupting with different questions, they've already answered it for you, so it makes for a really good product. And these are some of the subjects that I've been able to use the photographs: construction of Highway 264, economics, the Hubble Trading Post, boarding school, day school experiences, animal husbandry, and the livestock production. The upper one is the photo of a construction of Highway 264 behind Hotevilla. And I've been fortunate enough to interview two gentlemen that worked on this project. And from what I gathered through the interviews, I asked them what about if they had run into any archaeological sites, and they said yeah, but there wasn't any laws back then to protect them, so they were just bulldozed over, and sometimes they would see human remains coming out of the ground, and they couldn't do nothing to stop it. All they could do was rebury them on the side of the road somewhere. And the next one here is the Sikekuku store at Supalavi village. And it's interesting to see, when you really zoom into these photographs, what kind of products were out there. You have the cornflakes box here, and Hills Brothers coffee back then. And a lot of these items back then were valued because they didn't have any money back then to purchase these. And some of the stories that I come across, they always mention drinking a bottle of soda outside the trading post, and they seem to remember that most. Here's photographs of the high school at Old Raibi Village. And what I've gathered from doing interviews was, in the morning they would take math and reading and language courses, and then in the afternoon they would do home economics, mechanics, wood shop, sewing, whatnot, carpentry. And photo up here, they're learning how to tend to a sick person. And the photo down here, they're sewing for the Red Cross. So these were some of the stuff that they were doing as part of the assimilation process into the white culture. This one is the old Hubble Trading Post, and the trading post was used to trade crafts, wool and sheepskins and cattle, for stuff like flour, coffee, sugar, lard, and canned food, and candy for their children. Another example is we use historic photographs for different legal cases. This example is the Little Colorado River adjudication. We have, I don't know if anybody know TJ Ferguson, but he's working on this project for us. And it just shows that we were using the different washes that run into the Little Colorado River as far as back as 1940s. So this just shows that we do have some right to the water in the area. And from what I hear through a good friend of mine, Jack August, who does a lot of this kind of work, that water is going to be the next fight for Native American tribes. Others, we use photographs in the Divini, it's a local newspaper, and the example that I have is Who's Who. What we do is put in photographs for the people to see if they can identify the people that are in the photos. And we're currently working on a new web page. The one that you have listed in the program is very outdated, so we're trying to get with the times and do another web page for researchers to use. Talking about the web page, we do have a research protocol online for any researchers that are wanting to do research on the Hopi tribe. And what this protocol does is it allows us to review what is going to be studied and how it's going to be done. And the benefit for you in turning in a research protocol is that it benefits you by getting the support of the tribe. And if you try to go out and do research on your own without doing research protocol, you know, it's frowned upon, and it doesn't really benefit your research. And we do allow research, but we prefer to, you know, do it in the research protocol manner. And these are some of the current projects that we're involved in right now. And one is the Hopi Footprints Project, and it's a collaboration between NAU Anthropology Department and the HCPO language program. I don't really know too much about this, but if you do a search on the internet on the Hopi Footprints, they have a website up that tells you more. Basically, from what I know is they're going out to visit all the arc sites within the Southwest, and somehow you're going to use that in doing a curriculum for the Hopi tribe. And the second one, the Hopi History Project, which I'm involved in, is basically the same as the one above, but we hired a student intern from NAU who's going to go out to all the repositories and trying to find out as much as we can on the history of the Hopi people, because currently the school-age children are not learning any Hopi history in the classes, and this project is geared towards trying to bring Hopi history into the classroom. And then one other project that I forgot to mention was that we're also doing a project with the Arizona State Museum. It's the Hopi Documentary Project, and that consists of the people from ASM are going out to the Spanish archives and trying to get as much information on the Spanish and Hopi history. They're translating that from the old Spanish writings, and it's a tedious effort, but they've come a long way, and that is one of the current projects that we're doing. The Hopi end of this project is we went out and interviewed some elders on the history of Spanish out on the Hopi reservation, and I've been fortunate enough to have come up with some very good information. It's different from what we're they're finding through the transcriptions of the Spanish, because they don't show the hardships that the Spanish had put on the Hopi people. So it's an interesting project, and it's currently being done with the Arizona State Museum. And these are my credits for the slides. In Hopi, we don't have a term for goodbye, because it's like giving a bad omen to someone that you're never going to see him again. So we say, I'll see you sooner or later. Thank you.